podcast. It's Andrea, and it's episode 88 of the Mastering Social Media for Schools podcast. Oh my gosh, time is just a flying by. And guess what is right around the corner? Episode 100. It's not too far away, and I am doing something super special and I need your help. Okay. Episode 100 is actually going to feature you, the listeners, sharing some of your best tips and tricks and strategies that you have learned along the way and how it's helped you at your school. And I need you to record those. So, if you are so brave, which I believe that you are, I'm looking for you to record yourself with a voice memo or a video on your phone and you can, on your phone, if you're doing a video, if you want to record it in the horizontal format, that would be awesome. But all I'm looking for is you to record your introduction to yourself, name, school or district, your state, and your title. And then the best tip or most impactful thing you've learned from me, from Social School for EDU. And you can share a specific story of how you used it at your school. I'm looking for 30 to 90 seconds for you to record that. And then you email that recording into me and just put in the subject line podcast 100. Okay. You might be one of the lucky listeners that is featured in that episode. I do need those submissions by January 31st. So you've got a little bit of time, but not a lot. And so I really want to grab your stories and your tips in your own words to share with our listeners for my big episode 100. So again, name, school or district, your state, title, and your best tip or most impactful thing you've learned. I have included those summary notes in the show notes today. So if you're listening to this later and you're like, what did she want again? They're in the show notes for this podcast episode. But I would just love it if you would help with podcast 100, which is right around the corner. But now you're in store for a great interview today with Laura Jarchow. She is principal at St. Mary Catholic School in New Richmond, Wisconsin. Very small school, but I'm telling you, the tips she's going to share are going to be helpful for whatever size of school that you are. She is in her 22nd year of serving that school, 7th year as principal, and she really wears all the hats. Website, social media, helps out in the kitchen if she needs to. She's a substitute teacher when she needs to do that, but she still manages to tell a really consistent story out there with their social media posts, and they've been able to grow their enrollment because of it. She recently participated in our 5-day Fire Up Your Facebook challenge. So, we're going to be talking about a few of those challenges and how they impacted their reach. And she's continuing to see positive results of the reach because of those strategies that she's implemented. And guess what, guys? Many of those challenges, she said, weren't that hard. It was just reminders of what to do and what works, which is awesome. So, I'm really excited for you to learn a few great tips from Laura in today's interview. Now, before we get started, this week's K 12 PR tip is another simple one. You guys, space out the text of your posts. When I was in the challenge, I noticed so many people that were just putting huge chunks of text in their posts, one big paragraph. You guys, that is overwhelming for your followers to read. Really take advantage of double spacing every 3 to 4 lines in your social media posts to make them easier to read. I can guarantee that your followers are going to be more encouraged to read the whole thing. It may not be AP style, guys. It may not be 3 sentences in a paragraph or 4 sentences before you take a break. It might just be one sentence and then you're breaking it up. But I can tell you that I saw so many people posting just these big chunks of text. It was overwhelming. So the tip is simple this week. Just break those posts up so that they are in bite-sized chunks, easier for your followers to read. All right, now let's get in to episode 88 with Laura Jarchow. Hey, Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about it.
Yes, I am excited to have you here. We're going to focus a little bit today on all of the excitement around the 5-day Facebook challenge that we had, I guess, at the end of November. Time's flying, and I can't believe it's already December. But for the listeners out there, why don't you share your background and your role as a principal there at St. Mary's School?
Well, I started at St. Mary's School 22 years ago. My children are graduates from here. My husband is an alumni, and his father is alumni also. So my children are third generation alumni, hoping for maybe grandkids here too someday. I started 22 years ago as the music teacher here, and
Okay.
after my second year, they brought me on full time, and I was the eighth grade teacher, where I taught ELA, history, and music. And 7 years ago, I was offered the position of principal. So I'm in my seventh year as principal here.
Okay, awesome. Now, you had a lot of alumni. Did you go to this school or no?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not live in this town when I was going to school.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So about how big is St. Mary?
When I started 22 years ago, I believe there was about 110 kids in the school. And
Okay.
in the first 15 years of my jaunt here, you could say, it fluctuated between 80 and 150. I took on the role as principal 7 years ago, and we started the school year with 219 kids this year.
Wow, that's awesome growth. And is it K-8 or what
It's
grade levels?
3K through eighth grade.
Pre-K through 8th. Okay. And where are you located again for everybody?
I am located in New Richmond, Wisconsin. We're about 35, 40 minutes from Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're right across the border from the Twin Cities.
Okay, awesome. And it's not too far from where I am in Wisconsin. And I just drove through New Richmond because I was coming through from Stillwater
Yep.
kind of area, kind of over. And so just was through your neck of the woods. Okay, so you're principal, but you're also helping with the social media. So kind of just tell me how social media fits into your role as principal there.
Well, for those of you who do not understand the role of a principal at a Catholic school, you do everything. You are the IT person, you're the curriculum person, you're the fundraiser, you're the social media, you're the website director, you are the substitute teacher, you're the substitute custodian, and the substitute cook or lunch server when need be. So I basically run all of our social media platforms. Very active on Facebook, getting into Instagram. I tried Twitter, but I don't understand it. And a lot of our parents aren't on Twitter, so I haven't done a lot with Twitter, and then I do manage our website also. So
Okay.
social media, it's important. That's where majority of our new families moving to the area learn about our school. I always direct them to our Facebook page. Um, I deal with it every single day. I try to post every day. The words try.
That's yeah, especially when you have as many roles as you do, which is another miraculous thing that you even get to talk to us right now. Hopefully, we won't get interrupted during this interview. Maybe you have your door locked or something.
Well, the staff knows. I'm just praying that, one of my littles doesn't pull the fire alarm. That happens, every so often. So, yeah, I have blocked the time out and everybody knows just stay away for a few minutes.
Yes, exactly. All right. So I love it. So you're doing Facebook, a little bit of Instagram, you tried Twitter. I like the fact that you kind of recognize that Twitter isn't really where your families are at. So why would you spend a lot of time there? You can focus where you've got more traction. You've got the website. I find it interesting. So when you have new families coming in, maybe inquiring, you're really directing them to your Facebook page and not necessarily your website. Why is that?
Well, I direct them to both. I
Okay.
tell them, go to my website, you get the nuts and bolts about policies and our handbooks there and tuition and scholarship opportunities. But then I tell them, especially with COVID where they can't come in and do a tour, go to my Facebook page. You're going to see what it looks like in the classrooms. You're going to see the students. You're going to see the teachers. You're going to see videos. It's really the day to day. And all of my Facebook posts, I tie them to my school's mission. So that
Yep.
really gives the families an idea of what our school is about and what we're made up of.
Yeah, I love that. Your website is your nuts and bolts and where everything kind of has to live that you have to have. But really, to get that culture, to really understand what it's like to go to school there, what the staff is like, all of those things, you really get to bring that to life in social media, right?
Exactly. And that's, especially with the videos and our it helps people see the tone within the building, how the teachers are talking to the kids, how the kids are responding. It really gives the heart of the school.
Yeah. So, Laura, let me ask you, how do you get most of that content? Are you going out and getting that, or do you get submissions from your staff that says, hey, this happened in our classroom today? How does that work?
Well, I actually started something this year. It's a little grid sheet and I have all the teachers with all the months and I ask them to send me one submission a month. Just one.
Yep.
The majority of the submissions I'm going out and finding, or if because I'm not in the office principal, I'm in the hallways, I'm in the classrooms. If I see something, I take out my phone, I capture it right away. Sometimes I post it, sometimes I don't.
Sure.
Because sometimes I get good pictures or good videos. But I would say probably 90% of it I'm capturing myself.
Okay. Um, and it's good that you are out and about, and that's good for, I mean, a lot of you listeners, some of you are Laura's size. You are a couple hundred students and you all wear a lot of hats, and if you're the principal at a small school, you're out and about. You can take those photos, but if you are a bigger school, definitely lean into maybe your principals at your different buildings, because if they are out and about, they may be able to help capture some of the things as well for you. So Laura, you recently participated in our 5-day challenge. We had a fire up your Facebook page challenge that was 1 week, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But how did you hear about the challenge, Laura?
Well, in the Diocese of Superior, we have a marketing committee, and it's made up of 4 development directors. There's some schools that have development directors, and myself. And one of the schools' development director actually has a subscription to you to your social
Membership, probably.
media membership, and she had sent me the stuff in the fall, and I was like, oh, I already did my budget. I can't quite do the fee. And then but I've been getting emails from you because I think I emailed and wanted information, and all of a sudden it popped up, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And that's how I found out about it. It was an email. I'm like, because when I get them from you, I read them like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I saw the 5-day challenge and the chance to win $500. And for a small Catholic school, $500 is a big deal. So I thought,
Right.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we try to share it out on social media, out in our newsletter. If you're not on our newsletter, guys, there's a link right in the show notes, along with all of Laura's information, and we'll get you a link to her, what she's sharing on her Facebook page, and all of that. But definitely get signed up for that newsletter because it's free. And if we're doing any fun events like this in the future, you won't be left out. So that's really good. So can you kind of share what your experience was like in the Facebook page, the challenge?
Um, I liked it because it reminded me of stuff I knew that I wasn't doing. I thought the challenges were going to be much harder. But I would get in my office at 5:15, see the challenge, I'm like, I got it. So, but it reminded me to go live. I hadn't gone live for a long time, and I used to do that a lot. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I'm going live, once or twice a month. It reminded me those stories of students or staff who are, call them the underdog stories or the stories of hope. So it made me stop and make a list of, okay, these are the things I need to make sure I'm doing again. I've done them in the past, but then in the busyness, kind of forgot about it. So it kind of recharged. But I think the most important thing, I'm checking my insights again. I hadn't done that for a long time. And I'm
Yeah.
going back and inviting people. It reminded me about the invite button. I hadn't invited anybody to our page for a while. So it was just a good, oh, yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of back to the basics a little bit, because like you said, you get in the hustle and bustle of everything. You may have heard a tip or two and tried it once, and then you're like, okay, but then it gets lost. One of the big things we did was we did start with looking at our insights and looking at how many people we've reached and how many followers we have, because at the end of the week we wanted to see, hey, did it increase? Did what Andrea tell me to do? Did it actually make an impact? You also indicated just a couple tips there. Finding those stories. So, did what kind of story did you share? We challenged you, hey, find a student story that you can share, where it shows determination and grit, and we gave a couple of examples. What kind of story were you able to identify from your school?
I had two possibilities, and one I wasn't sure if I could get the information and the permission in time. But the story that I chose for the challenge is Sweet Little Easton. He is in my 4K program. About 2 weeks before the start of school, his mom's a teacher here. They were camping up in northern Wisconsin, and he fell into their campfire and received third-degree burns on his left arm, hand, and all that. So he was in Children's Hospital in the Twin Cities for 17 days, I believe,
Oh,
and
wow.
skin grafts, and had to be sedated every day to have the wounds cleaned and dressed. And this little kid, he's got still months and months of OT and some more surgeries coming up, but he's smiling all the time, and he is just grit and perseverance, and a little tiny 4-year-old with a huge smile, and he's happy all the time. So right away I asked Christina, can I highlight Easton? She's like, absolutely. And he loved it. So
Yeah.
then the other story I have, I will be featuring this month. So I'm going to try to
Okay.
do one of those big feature stories once a month or once every other month if we have something that's shows that perseverance and grit and strength.
And I love it. You're a Catholic school, so you can tie in your faith as well.
Mhm.
And our communities, they need these stories, right? And they're here for us. Again, you've got to get some of that special permission if you're sharing some of those details, medical background, and some of those things. But that was an incredible story. We had a lot of other stories in the group as well, stories of overcoming some heart surgeries, and people facing some mental health things, and what else was I trying to think of? Oh, a gal that was learning how to read music in Braille. That was an incredible story. A basketball assistant that was I think he was an autistic boy, nonverbal,
Mhm.
but he was asked to be a basketball assistant or manager for the varsity team, and that was just huge. Those are feel good stories that we just have to have a little bit of effort to go out and grab them. But then, you can share those. Did that story with Easton, did that get some good traction? Did it get some good views?
Yes, it got a lot of views, and it reached, I wanna say, like, 15 or 1,600 people. For us, is huge. But
Yeah.
no, it got a and it was shared out a lot also.
Okay, awesome. That's good. And we'll link directly to that post as well so that people can see. But that would be a great tip, you guys. Share those stories even once a month, like you said, Laura, to dig in, talk to your teachers. They all know those students that maybe have those stories. And it can be all sorts of reasons that feel good stories to share. Um, what so you said 1,500 shares is a lot for your school. How many followers or likes does your page have?
I believe we have right now 588 followers.
Okay,
Our reach usually on posts will be somewhere between 3 and 600, but now I'm starting to see reaches over 1,000, which is nice. I
awesome.
looked at my insights or my likes this morning, and I know they're up. I don't remember the exact number, but I think we're
Sure.
getting more traffic. The one thing I'm really trying to get people to do, especially my staff, is to share these posts. And
Right.
I, for some reason, I can't get them to share them. So I don't know why. So you guys,
Yeah.
if you're listening, start sharing our posts. So
Yes. When you go to Laura's page and see that story on Easton, hit the share button because we learned, Laura, that that share button is so powerful. One of the first challenges was actually trying to get as many shares as possible. And some people actually said, "Hey," and I think you guys did it. "Hey, we're trying to win $500." Students actually held up a sign, we're trying to get 1,000 shares or maybe 100 shares. I'm not sure what your sign said. Do you remember?
it was my student part of my student council somewhere out due to COVID, but they held up a sign and it was our schools in a social media contest. Help us win $500. Share our posts and something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and how many shares did you get on that post?
Oh, a lot. I want to say
Was it close to 300?
it was over that. By the end of the week, it was, I think, closer to 500. But
Okay.
our reach
Um
was like thousands, thousands,
yeah.
thousands.
Right. It's amazing. And not that you're going to do that every day, Laura. I'm not expecting everybody listening to fake say you're in a contest. The post example I gave was actually teaching our kids about social media and the power of social media and the reach that you can do. And it says, "Hey, we're learning about social media. Help us get 1,000 shares to see how many people this can reach." And we got over 670 shares and it reached almost 40,000 people. And we have a couple thousand followers on our page. So that was a really, really big reach, but it shows the power of what those shares can do. And that's what you're trying to do with your social media pages, guys. You're trying to spread the stories. So, getting those shares from your staff, like you said, Laura, if you've got a PTO or a PTA organization, those people that care about your school, maybe if you're a Catholic school like yours and you're with a parish, then you would be asking the church members, "Hey, one simple thing you can do is when you see our posts, hit that share button and it's going to help spread the word." And ultimately that's what we're trying to do is get our stories out to more folks. So yeah, great lesson. So you were kind of urged to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Now I loved it that you kind of said you came in every day morning at 5:15. You're like, "Oh, I got this." So maybe you didn't get pushed as much, but were any of the challenges harder for you to do than any others?
Just the story, getting permission. I mean, but I had it by like 6:50 that morning, and I no, I was not out of my comfort zone. I thought it was going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
So do another one and make them really hard. I'm type
Oh,
A
it's a lot.
personality. If you don't know,
What's that?
I'm type A personality. If
Yeah.
you haven't figured that out.
You and I both, we're competitive, right? And we want to get in there. And I don't know when my next challenge will be. Kind of the way that we support people, like you said, Laura, all year long is in our membership group where we're doing monthly challenges and some of those things. But I'm really glad that you got pushed to try some new things or to remind you of things that you should be doing. Do you remember some of the metrics that you got in as regards to, like we looked at your reach on the first day, and then when we looked at your reach 7 days later, was there a big increase?
There was. I know one of our posts. I want to say hit like 18,000 reaches. And then I
Okay.
know our followers went up, I believe it was 34 or 35 in that 1 week.
Yeah,
So,
that's incredible, and that's mainly from probably hitting that invite button, right, Laura?
yep, I think
So
so.
yeah. So can you describe that, what you do when you can try to invite people? What are you doing there?
What I do is when I have a post and you have the people who are like or loving your post, I just click on there, and if I haven't sent if it says invite and it's blue, I just hit it. And I try to do that with every single post. And I do try to go back a couple posts because sometimes people will see it after, but I'll only go back maybe 3 or 4 posts and then hit the invite button. And then I try to do that every morning when I come into work, when I'm checking the Facebook page, see if there's anybody that I can invite, and then try to lay out, okay, what can I post today? So
Right. And you're not inviting just all your random friends. You're inviting people that have already taken an interest in your page by
mhm.
liking or loving something. I wouldn't necessarily if they had a sad face or something. I don't know. Most things with schools are positive. If they're angry with you for some reason, maybe you don't invite them to like your page. But it's a habit that you can get into. You can do it from your phone or your desktop. And if you have never done that, I want you to start, and you can go back a lot. I mean, sometimes, Laura, when we start full management for a new school that they have never done that, we'll go back a few months or 6 months, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden our followers likes will jump up by like a couple hundred because there's all these people that were interacting with the page that didn't realize they didn't like the page, which we obviously know if they like the page, they're going to be more likely to see our posts, but they don't necessarily see our posts because like you said, you got about 588 followers. You used to get about 300 to see each post that you share, which is pretty good. It's pretty typical, Laura, to reach only about half of your followers. The more engagement you get, the more likes and comments and shares, the more people are going to be reached. And one of the big things that I shared with everybody is a really good goal for each week is to try to reach double the amount of people as you have followers. So if you have about 600 followers, every week with your posts, you want to reach about 1,200. Right now, I'm betting, Laura, that you're probably knocking the socks off of that and you're probably a lot higher.
Are you saying total reaches for all the posts or each post making that reach?
Total reaches.
Oh, we're above that then. Because I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
averaging right around 700 per post. Some are a little lower, some are a little higher.
Yeah. So that's powerful. And just so everybody knows, that reach number is a unique individual. So it's not an impression number. So you don't get to just add up all of the posts and that would end up being your reach. It's actually counting up how many people saw at least one post this week, and that's what that number is. So again, we kind of explained that a little bit more in the challenge. So as far as just in general, Laura, with you said you make a point to share videos and things like that from your classrooms. You're tying it back to your mission. What are some of the other, aside from the challenge, some of the best stories that you've been able to share from your school out on social media? Are there any others that kind of rise to the top of really standing out to you?
Whenever I do a or post about a science experiment and the kids are doing it, like my first grade teacher was doing dancing popcorn, and it's a chemical reaction thing, and that got a ton. Anytime I can tie something to the liturgical seasons, that is always big also. But it seems to be when the kids are interacting and doing something that's academic and shows the quality of the education here, they get a lot of likes.
Yeah, awesome.
Or if
Yeah,
I'm
just
doing something silly with the teachers, um, on an in-service day, like we did a episode of Chopped a couple of years ago, and they did teams and stuff, and I put that on, and that was huge. That was a huge post a couple of years ago. So whenever I
yeah.
can show the teachers being real people too.
Yeah, I love it. Those are simple things that are happening every day in the classroom. It's not like these big field trips or, anything like that. It's things that are just happening in the classroom. And when we can open up the doors and show people what it's like, I think
Mhm.
that's really powerful. Um, if you were to share one of your best social media tips, what would that be for our listeners?
I think the very best, 'cause I've gotten goosed on this a couple of times, and I'm very aware of it now. Um, make sure you read your post a couple of times so that nothing's misspelled or you have the wrong homophone because spell check changed it. But I think the most important is when you're taking pictures or you're taking videos, look at what's in your background because people will see stuff in the background that you don't notice, and it can be a little awkward or embarrassing or so always, kind of peruse the whole room before you take your pictures or your videos.
Yeah, that's really important. And it's been important, especially in the last 20, 22 months, whatever, with masks and, all of those things, social distancing. If you had to do those, we've gotten maybe a little bit better. But yeah, the moment you get lax on that, Laura, it bites you. So
It
you
won't.
got to be really careful, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So, if our listeners want to stay connected to you, Laura, what would be the best way?
Well, you could visit us on our Facebook page, which is St. Mary's New Richmond, or our website, which is st-maryschool.com.
Awesome.
And
And
then
and you'll
our
go
Instagram
ahead.
hashtag is grow, follow, serve.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll get those links out there for everybody, and I'm sure there's ways to contact Laura directly if you have specific questions. But I'm just so proud of the progress you guys are making. Many of us are wearing a lot of different hats. Probably none more than you as a principal, trying to do all of the things. And you shared a lot of helpful advice and tips for our listeners today. So thanks so much for carving out time for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was a
All
fun
right.
challenge and it helped us.
Yes, awesome. Yes, and yeah, stay tuned to all of the things that we put out because we're always hoping to help inspire, give you little tips. And again, if you want to stay connected all year long, our membership program is there for you. There's a link in the show notes for more information on that as well. But thanks so much, Laura, and everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Thank you.